special guest today, Greg Burnett. Greg, how you doing, man?
Fantastic. Thanks for having me, Dave.
Digging the hat.
Yeah, it is a war, man. We gotta get it out there.
Well, a lot of times.
Well, what's the meaning behind? I mean, we just got to jump right into what is the meaning behind war? I mean, some people can see that.
I'm co-opting somebody else's message here. This is Dustin Poirier's hat, UFC, and I'm a UFC fan as well. But I mean, technically, this is the whole logo here goes back to the old honoring boxing and everything. But in our case, clearly, it is a MAGA hat with war, right? We're looking at taking this country back, and I don't think we've had any more existentially clear lines drawn than we have right now. I think if you are, I mean, it couldn't be more clear in my lifetime what side of there's literally a line, and you're on one side or the other, and that is the definition of a war. It's a battle line with two sides, and we're going into this midterm elections, and of course, every day. We have to get up and understand that this is an existential fight for the future of our country.
Well, is that good enough for you?
Well, it's just a statement. I just want to clarify it right out of the gate.
No
more silence, man.
Well, everybody out there today, it stands tall. We go after politics, we go after education, Jesus, sports, and people. But today we're going to kind of tighten this up around politics, and we don't do that very often. But when we have somebody like Greg to come along, Rob, who's got a lot of knowledge in this area, we can ask him some questions. What we want to do today on Stand Tall is bring clarity to what's going on in politics. Obviously, Oregon is, we were just talking before we went on air that I think for me, this is the most important election of my lifetime in the state of Oregon. And literally the future of our state is in the balance. We've had a lot of people move. We've had a lot of people stay. We have a lot of people that if this state keeps going south, they're going to move. And that's always a threat people like to throw out there pretty quickly. But still, it is a reality. We've lost a lot of people in Oregon. And there's definitely the battle line.
I'm one of them.
Yeah.
I'm in North Idaho now, and that's where my family's from. And I didn't flee; it was more of a expand and a strategic retreat in some sense. But I'm in Oregon about 25% of the time. It is my core. It's where I was born and raised, and where I've done almost all my political involvement from the time I was, like I said, walked for Reagan at 9, and doing that my whole life. But Idaho is part of the same fight. Obviously, this is a national fight, but Oregon certainly is ground zero for a lot of issues.
Sure.
Well, as we're moving forward here today, Greg, jump in, even if we're not filling or asking the right questions, jump in and go. But my goal today is to try to get as many bits of information out there where people can start to make their own war plan, so to speak, or their own political plan. But this last week has been very busy with, the last one was Representative Ed Deal. I know him well. He announced that he's coming in to the governor's race. Great guy. He was the one that led the tax referendum. I mean, it's kind of unfair because a lot of people were working on that, and Ed would be the first to say he wasn't, but he was spearheading it for sure. And so Ed's a great guy. Been around to many dinners and hit golf balls with him. He's a great guy.
I would say the same thing on Ed Dell, Greg. I agree with everything you just said. And I'm fine, but I'm also one of those guys where it would have got done without every single person on the ground, obviously.
Yeah.
But in my lifetime, and I mean, I don't understate this, I have never, ever, and I mean across the country, I cannot think of a single example. And of course, Ed will tell you it was the perfect storm, and Gabe, of course, was directly involved in it, and all those guys as well. And it was a perfect storm where everything just came together, and it made it so compelling. But I don't have a single example I can think of in the entire country where something was so overwhelmingly received and signatures were gathered so quickly. And we had such a significant awe shatter. We blew their minds, man. And I'd say we, but I didn't have much to do with it. Oregon, the people that actually were on the ground doing this blew their minds. They did not see that coming.
Yeah, it was exciting. I know as a chair of Yamhill County and a vice chair of the state of Oregon Republican Party, there was a lot of people working hard, cold days. I went around a lot of different signing places where people had tents and tables set up, and I was taking coffee and McDonald's, and there was a couple cold weekends in there where people out there, not as cold as it is now, but yeah, a lot of people were working hard at that. And I think in our county, Yamhill County, which isn't a huge county, but we got about 9,300 signatures, on that. And I think they ended up with 255,000.
Yeah,
Something like
it was extremely well organized, extremely well done, and I mean I can't overstate that. It's typically, as a consultant side of the fence, this is always a calculation. Every single time somebody talks to me about initiative, signature gathering, it's always a straight up math answer. You need X number of dollars per signature, and you need to have this many people at this many times to gather this many signatures per hour to get to our. It's a math equation. None of that was fun. All of those rules were broken. There was no way to get that many signatures that quickly with that low of dollars. No possible. I mean, the math doesn't make sense. So I want to make sure people understand that although we pick each other apart a lot of the times across everywhere, everybody always criticizes each other. I want to give credit where credit's due when it is. When it happens, I want to say emulate success. I don't care if it's mine.
Craig, I just want to ask you, what was your take on the reaction of Governor Kotek, who was behind all this, who was kind of dumbfounded, you're right, and flabbergasted that this was able to take such root. What was your take on that whole situation? Because I think it probably going to hurt her politically.
It will. Devastating. I think there was I certainly know she didn't see this coming. I mean, this result, or she would not. They would have done it. Period. And going into an election year where she's fighting for her life, she clearly would not have done that if we knew this. If she knew that was going to get on the ballot so quickly, she delayed out of the gate, obviously thinking that would hold us back. Waited till the last moment on a 3-day weekend and holiday, so on, to get everything going. Clearly, everything was strategy about making sure we had as few days as possible. All that did was add more frustration and excitement and momentum when it started. But she would have done it, number one. Number two, she knew she had that pull in case of emergency clause where, hey, we just pull it off in special session, right? Worst case, if they do get the signatures, we just pull it back and we have it out. Be out of people's minds. And we're like, I'm going, first of all, it won't, because now you just mobilize an army of people that were significantly from every party. It was not a Republican-led recall in a sense, right? Certainly it was all Republicans and a big part of the independents and a big part of the Democrats. I mean, we're talking 80+% of the population in Oregon by every poll is opposed to this. It is the largest tax increase in Oregon's history. It is a significant one that hits working families hardest, disproportionately all the way down the line. It protects her people and all of her pet causes. All of the people that are close donors for her get kick-ups, and everybody that works hard every day gets kicked in the nuts. It's one of those kind of initiatives, and everybody felt it. It was real. Like Jason Williams always says, is people don't like their gas taxes going up, right? People don't like their local groceries bills going up. And that's the two things it does the most. Now, strategically going out of this, she thought she had to pull cord in case of emergency. Well, there's a convenient, ruling that clearly says you can't pull it off the ballot. So now we're going into November with this monster hammer that they're going to be on defense. I've already seen a lot of the polls coming out from the Dems that are pushing every type of phrasing they can think of to how do they fight this message. Man, we go all in on it. It is, we pull in, you're going to see a shift from all communities, including like Hispanic communities that traditionally are hard D. We're going to see a lot of those move over. We're going to see a lot of the independents if this message is held strong and we go all in unapologetically. And because every single incumbent Democrat voted for this. Not a hard message to win.
Yeah. Hey, Greg, real quick, and then I want to get right back to this. This is exactly how we want the show to go today. David Medina just announced, I think, 5 days ago, David 36. He's got one of the biggest media followings in the Northwest. He's young, energetic. I think he brings a lot of energy to this. I just give kudos to Ed Deal, which I always would. Ed's been to my house. David's been to my house. David brings a lot of youthful energy to this thing, and I like that because I think we need a lot of energy. You and I have talked about this. Old people, young people, we got to bring a lot more energy to the Republican Party to win in Oregon because we've been losing for 50 years. So David announced, we know Chris Dudley is close to announcing, the former Portland Trailblazer, lost a close election, a decade ago for governor. So, and then we obviously the front runner so far has been Christine Drazen, who's now a senator, I believe. and the shakeups down there. She was a state rep. She lost in the last election to Tina Kotek. A lot of people were upset about that. A lot of people felt like that was the one to win, and we didn't. And then there is the lady I like a lot coming out of Salem is, oh man, I'm gonna embarrass myself not getting her. Bethel. Bethel's a neat lady. I like her. I mean, I've talked to her. I could easily be friends with her. She wants to come be on our show. We'll have David on. We'll have Ed on. I'll try to get Chris Dudley on. We'll try to get Christine Drazian on. But so she's running. And isn't there one other person?
There's 19 as of this coming Monday, probably. There's 18. I think there's 18 officially today. My bet with Richard Burke on this one, and he'll probably remember. I hope. He'll claim like we didn't have a bet on this. 6 months ago was over under was going to be 20 candidates for the primary, and we're I think we'll be 19 on Monday.
Wow.
Do you got any other names that you can read off to us?
Oh, I'd have to go on the SOS stage to look at them. You named all the main ones. There's going to be a lot. I mean, Rich calls me last week. I'm doing kind of an inside thing here, but he says, yeah, I was talking to somebody. I'll tell you who it was, one of the candidates. And he's like, yeah, I just want to call you and tell you I was in the backyard with my dog. And the tree told me it was filing to run for governor. So I just want to let you know you got another opponent. They have another opponent in the ring. And so it's just like every dog and tree is going to be getting in this one. But I mean, kind of a side joke, but you know what it really tells me, and I'm with you where you were going with this, where I think you were going with this is like, we have a great bench. It is amazing. Every candidate you named there's not one of those people where I would say, I can make an argument for them. I like some better and some worse, but I tend to stay out of that publicly on that, that game until the primary is over. I'm much more of let's let the people decide on this, but let's give them everything we've got. Because we want to go into the general with the strongest candidate. There's not a single person you name that I don't really, really, really like and really, really appreciate. And I think they've all worked very hard to get where they are, including people like David Medina, who's non-traditional. I think he brings a different voice to this. And, I know David, I think he's a worker, man. And he's got a niche in there. He's a good guy. Dudley has his pros and cons. I like him. He's a lot of arguments for and against him. Christine, same thing. I love her personally, but she's she has her pros and cons as well. So I'm looking forward to the battle. But you're saying, the get involved part. I mean, I think the first thing coming up is next weekend, which is going to be really interesting.
Will you expand that one, because Stand Tall is all behind Western Liberty Network. Where Richard Burke runs that. You have a little bit of a role in that. Maybe you can expand on that a little bit too. But Rob and I are going to be there, man. We're going to be right in the middle, and we are more truthful and we are better than KGW.
Yeah. We're going to get all the media there too, so it's going to be a very, very good look. Good. It's going to be set up to be a record year. I'm president of Western Liberty Network. Richard Burke is the guy who really runs it. I'm just name only, right? And I get to be get out there and spread some propaganda and do our best to get it done. Western Liberty Network has been around for a while now, more than a decade, and it's in that time we've had more than 2,000 people now that have gone through and gone on to win local office, and that's just really 99% of that's going to be Oregon, Washington. We are pushing that same message across the country in the coming year, and doing that same model in many ways and pulling that together. And that's another conversation. But this coming Saturday is our annual conference. And at that conference, westernlibertynetwork.org, you're going to get your tickets now, because it's the second that it leaks that there's going to be what's coming up here and what we're putting together in the next couple of days that will I'm putting 90% on it. Is, we already have a governor's forum that's going to be there. And we have agreement from most of the significant candidates and some other ones as well. We want to bring other voices in. It's going to be moderated by hopefully some people that are well-known. And then, of course, we're going to have a representation with Stand Tall and Media Row there, where you'll get a chance to hopefully sit down with multiple governor candidates and talk to them, as well as our other speakers that are there. The event itself, though, goes back to what we're talking about, which is it answers the question that I've heard since I was listening to Rush Limbaugh, in 1987, 88, whatever that right in there. I'm a Rush baby, and it was always the question that always hit me every time. It was number one question by far is, what can I do? And that's always, and quite honestly, Rush didn't have an answer. Mark Levin doesn't have an answer. Dan Bongino doesn't have an answer. Steve Bannon doesn't have an answer. They have answers. They have things, but really it is what it comes down to. Really, if I want to, it's like the meaning of life. What's the philosophy of this? Of what can I do? The answer is whatever you can do.
Yeah.
And that's what this answers. It allows you, the day is, we take the offensive. That's the theme of it. You spend the day there meeting a lot of people, local people and national people you could take the course you want, and you get advice and training on how to get involved in local politics, how to change offices, how to run for office and win, and very basics, and how to get involved actively and support other candidates, or get involved in initiative referendum signature gathering, or get involved in a podcast, or get involved in whatever it is that you do it. That's the whole message, really, when it boils down to. And we just need to be there to give you the tools to be able to help you get there. So you don't repeat all the same mistakes that everybody keeps repeating. Let's be the coach. Let's be the coach to get you there, right? That's what Western Liberty Network's about. And we have to it's on track for record sales. It already broke the record for sales, but it's on track for even more going in this coming week, I promise you. So looking forward to it. It's going to be fun.
I want to stay on this one pretty hard today, but one of the things I want to say is I got a 1776 hat. You have a 1776 sweatshirt. By the way, that's a fantastic sweatshirt. So thanks, Dan. But I think one thing I want to make sure is people understand too that we are from Oregon. You're from Idaho. So if we sound like we're talking about a lot about that, probably, but this is a nationwide thing. We've got people that listen to us in different states, and as we grow and get bigger, we definitely have had national guests on, Riley Gaines, and different people like that. Mike Lindell, Joe Oltman, different people, and we'll have more. So as we do that, and we get bigger, this is something that's going on in every state, and we can't assume that if you're just from Idaho or Texas or Tennessee or Florida, that you're the only conservative people out there. You're not. They're everywhere, and you have a lot more knowledge on that. We just happen to live where we're at. These are big races to us now, but every state has this stuff going on. And Rob and I talk about this, and I think you and I, touched on this too, is like, if you're just looking for something to do, I'd honestly just, look at your city or your public school website and go to a school board meeting, go to a city council meeting. And at least you're like, city councils are great because you kind of get to listen to all the stuff. Right now, ours are getting attacked over ICE, even though the city council has nothing to do with that. But there's a few people that like to come in there and stir it up. But if you go to a city council meeting, lasts about an hour and a half, hour 45, you hear about the water, you hear about the sewer, you hear about the roads, you hear updates from the city planners, and you will know a lot about your city in an hour and a half.
Well, I mean, let's face reality. And it sounds undeniable. The country doesn't fall apart from the top down. It falls apart from the bottom up. It is local, where everything happens, and everything is an extension of local. And far too long, the Republican Party specifically has really focused on the top down. I mean, we look at, we look at the rules for radicals, right? And the phrase in there is bottom up, top down, inside out, right? To create a revolution. And in a sense, we've been afraid of that all along and saying, well, they want a revolution. That's great. No, it's a revolution. The war's here, clearly. So the lines are drawn like we've talked about. There's two sides to the battle. So we need to figure out how to fight this fight effectively. And it's going to be one local up, period.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't mean we miss and we ignore the top seats. It just means if we're not building every single school board seat, every single city council seat, every single county commission seat, every single water board seat, everything, if 40% of your dollars comes out of your taxes are going to your schools, what impacts you more than that? A biggest part that you mentioned that you hit on school boards, and I know you have that affinity education in your background, it's the lowest hanging fruit. And it's the easiest. Most of those elections are won by 500 votes or less across the country. It's like 63% of these local seats are 500 votes or less. It takes 500, and 90% of the people don't vote on school board seats. So you just got to get 500 of your friends. You get a group together and you change the school board. And when you change the school board, you change your district, you change your city, you change your county. It is 500 people locally repeated 1 million times across the country, and we change it. It's everything all at once, small.
Yeah, and on that one too, when I first got to the school board in Newburgh after 20 years in education at the high school, I was shocked that how simple the math was. There were 7 seats on the school board.
Yeah.
Brian Shannon and I were elected on, and we were the only 2 people that leaned right. So we lost every single vote for 2 years, 2-5. It was just that simple, 2-5. And then we had another big election come up, and we had some people run, and we got we won 2 out of 3. And so then all of a sudden, do the math, we had 4 votes. Liberals had 3. We're up 4-3. It's like baseball, man. 4-3, you win. Like when my Reds beat your Cardinals. Yeah.
Very rarely.
But the sad part about this, Dave, is you bring up a point. It shouldn't be that it's 4-3, 5-2, because most people, and up until probably a couple of years ago, most of the country, until COVID hit, especially, were of the thinking, especially on our side of the fence, that it's about kids, right? So how can we disagree very much? We all want the same things. I have these arguments with people all the time. We all want the best education for our kids. Well, hold on a second. We woke up and said, what are you teaching our kids? You're politicizing them and radicalizing them. They can't read and write, but they can sure as heck get out there and march. They can turn their hair blue, put in pierced nose, and change their gender, and get out there and talk about white privilege and gender ideology. They can name 36 genders, but without blinking, but they can't read a basic 8th grade level. And we're going, hold on a second. They don't want the same education for our kids that we do. They're not thinking the same thing we are. They're militarizing our children, period. And there's undeniable. So that's when it becomes an issue of we have to win the majorities back. And that why I say that's the lowest hanging fruit in school boards is, we mentioned this in the last call, but it's worth repeating. There's about 95,000 school board seats. It's one of the reasons we're really focusing this on the 76 going forward, 100%. It's the easiest ones to win, 500 votes or less. Keep that in mind. There's 95,000 school boards. More than a third of those districts are red districts with majority Democrat control. Those are our districts. We don't have to convince anybody of anything. We just have to show up. It's not an ideological thing. It's not an educational thing. It's a literal organization thing. It is, we just got to go, hey, 500 people, vote, and we change the country.
Okay, I got a question for you, but I'm going to start with Rob on this one.
Okay.
So as a veteran of the U.S. Army, and then Greg, you can come out from your perspective. I don't know if you did military or not.
I did not.
I did not either, but Rob did. He served overseas. When you look at why we would ask somebody to vote, why is that important for you?
Well, because there's parts of the world where people don't vote. They're not allowed to vote. Their voice isn't heard. No one really cares about their voice. They're kind of placed into a sector, and that's their lot in life. There's no freedom. There's no aspirations. There's dreams, but they're just unfettered dreams. They're just, you're in your spot, and that's where you are. The great thing about America is that we do have the ability to go from ghettos and barrios and really disadvantaged neighborhoods, and through education, through hard work, through connections and networking, you can, rise above that state. And for me, being able to vote the right people in to ensure that right still exists, whether you're blue or red, whether you're Democrat, Independent, or Republican, that is really important, because you go to places where they're Democratic, but they're all run by foreigners, people who weren't even born there.
Yep.
Especially in Europe. In Europe, I'm talking especially.
100%, and it's a really kind of personal story in this one. My wife's Moldovan, right? She'll tell you that she's American Moldovan. She's not Moldovan American, and she's very, 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 very proud. I mean, her biggest pride moment was swearing in. I was there for it. It was, and before we married a few years, she got her citizenship, and it was like, we had a huge group there and crying. It was that most proud moment of her life. But she'll tell you, to this day, she can vote in the Moldovan elections. And there's only like 3-4 places around the Western United States that you can vote. She'll get in her car and drive 6 hours to make sure and get there to vote. Okay. Wow. She finds out where they're voting, what the registration is. She talks to her family about what they need to vote for. She'll take a day off of work, drive 6 hours one way and back to get a vote out, one vote. That's how important it is. And they understand this because when they got the right to vote, she's like, there's no way in heck I'm ever going back on that. She saw what it was like when you couldn't.
Greg, remember one of my best friends, his wife's Moldovan, so we have to make this connection with them.
Definitely. Lubila's as well, both, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
After the show, we'll do that. Guys, okay, so I appreciate your answers there. We're talking, boots on the ground. You're at the diner. You're at Walmart. You're talking to somebody you just run into. You may not be great friends with, but you're acquaintances somehow. And again, they go, yeah, I don't vote. My vote doesn't matter.
It's like when I see David the Safeway, boy, I duck in the ice cream aisle because I don't want to deal with him at all.
There's those people.
Yeah.
You know what's
That's
getting
the day
hard?
after you make cuts at the high school and you just
Yeah.
cut 75 kids from the program.
Yeah.
That's not the day to go buy milk and Cheerios.
I just think we have to get. I'll tell you one thing from moving northern Idaho. I was in West Lynn for most of the last 20 years or so, right there in Lake Oswego, West Lynn area. And I can tell you the same. One of the biggest eye openers for me is, my next door neighbor is a retired LA school teacher, and another is married to a very, very leftist, chemist as well, both from LA, about as leftist progressive as you're going to get right next door to me here. The greatest joy I get, and I don't care if people think this is horrible, the greatest joy I get is that when I talk to her, she's out on my boat or we're out rocking around neighbors, she's a good friend, but she has to have the same feeling that I had for the last 20 years in West Lynn, where my three neighbors were the ones that made me feel horrible for being a conservative, right? Or did their best to it and tried to silence that. What I get up here is she's got to take that. But where I'm going with that is we got to learn. I don't care. Okay. What I learned by doing that is, man, I should have stood up more often. I should have spoke up more often when I was in Oregon. I can't tell you how many times that I'm a guy that's in this and I'm a fighter, and I've been in some hardcore fights over the years, and I still silenced and censored myself countless times. And I'm just like, I'm done with that. I'm okay. I don't care if you think I'm a jerk. I have the better position. I have the better philosophy. I'm not gonna go out of my way to offend you or to be aggressive by any means, but I'm certainly not going to shut my mouth when it's an exit. You want what you want will destroy my country. And if you're going to advocate for that with me, I'm going to fight with you. And that's just the way it is. And if you don't like that, then you stay silent.
Yeah, I think now when in our area, Newburgh has been like Loudoun County in Virginia 5 years ago. I run for the school board. Like you said, back then it was kind of that way. You just kind of run. I beat two people. I did get about 1,700 votes, by the way, but out of about
How much did you beat your opponent by?
It was like 1,721 to 1,220 and 950.
500 votes. Look at that.
Yeah, no, you were right. But when I got to the board, that's when COVID was coming. That's when woke was coming. That's when Black Lives Matter. Yep. 8 months in is when George Floyd passed away and the world just flipped. That's when I got attacked because I voted no against the anti-racism, which was the most racist document I'd ever seen in my life. I was like, kidding me? We're going to do a resolution on this? But
it's 1984. Everybody, it was left is right. What's right is right. They're going to use the exact word that it is. One of the jokes I have, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Dave, but one of the jokes I have about policy in DC, when a Democrat puts a bill forward, you really, it's 2,600 pages and you don't really know anything about it. The only thing you do know is whatever it's titled is the one thing it won't do.
Well, how do you feel? How do you guys both feel like right now? When you look at your vote now, it's like so many people, like Christine Drazen back in 24. No.
23.
That vote with Kotek right there. She lost by 53,000 votes. Yeah. Now statewide, that's like not that big a number, but our turnout rate was so low, and it's like, to me, it's we had some really good friends about 3 years ago. They moved to Idaho and now, but she told me we're having iced tea on their porch. Mm-hmm. And they said, she goes, yeah, Dave, I'm sorry, because I know you're really involved in all this stuff, but I don't vote. And I didn't, I'm not going to hammer somebody. I just sit back and listen. So finally I asked her, and I'll call her Mary because I don't want to call her by her real name. And I said, well, Mary, tell me about that. So she did. She told me her philosophy, which was really thin. really thin. I hope she's listening because she knows her name's not Mary right now, and she likes our show. But I said, "Can I tell you my 2 cents on this?" And man, those next fastballs were high and tight. Rob's a baseball guy; he gets this. And so she was kind of taken aback, but she's pretty blunt, and I love that about her. And she liked the fact that I came kind of back, but I didn't hit her, just high and tight. And she became one of our most active PCPs in the ML County. Very active, very smart lady. She'll work. She'll just work, and she was liking it a lot. And so,
I
yeah,
have some friends who are far and fairly left leaning people that, I'm happy to say they've come around. Most of them, but some of them took years for them to finally see what was going on. And I sincerely believe we have the better philosophy, and I'm happy to do the Charlie Kirk thing and like have a discussion and listen respectfully. What you find is the left's philosophy just doesn't hold up. It folds instantly, and they have to double back and hide who they are in order to justify what they're doing. And when they actually say what they're after, everybody is against them. Your average person on the street. So that's what you want. In their philosophies, if they actually reveal what they're actually after, you're 80% of the people don't want it.
So the question I got for you guys is, so on Jesse Waters, he has a young kid, good-looking kid, dark hair, and it's like, here's Johnny. Here's Johnny, and he'll do the interview. So he's kind of playing on Johnny Carson's, here's Johnny, but he's out there doing interviews with people on the street in big towns and stuff like that. And he's a charismatic, fun-loving, good-looking young guy. So he's very polite in how he does it, though. He's not a jerk. But what scares me when I watch that is how little the people, like, they'll say, well, we're here in New York. And they kind of look around and they go, yeah, we just moved here from D.C. And then he'll go, so have you been down to the Carolinas? And they're like, is that like by Colorado? I mean, the answers these people give are just stunningly bad.
Basic awareness. Yep.
They just don't know much.
And quite honestly, I sidetrack here a little bit, but what that tells me as a consultant is we're not going to change what other people are. When every time I see that with Johnny, I know I hear you, that kind of thing. What it does is saying that to me as a communicator, we have to meet people where they are. Yep. So we have to communicate at a level that, we don't spend, 80, I dream politics, as in you probably do the same, it's just because it's so much part of my life. And I know how critical it is to where we need to get our country back. The average person thinks about politics less than half hour a week, and even then it's top level stuff at best. Most people couldn't name you the vice president of the United States, which is, more than the majority. And despite being in the news every single day, and everything else is a downstream from that. So you have to meet people on basic emotional levels. Like, this is why the gas tax and the grocery prices are such a huge toxic thing for the left going in this general, because you can put that in real terms. What they're doing to you hurts you. And you keep it that simple. This isn't a partisan thing. We have a state that has 40 years of one-party leadership. How's that going for you? It's that kind of a message. You're like, and if they start going Trump, 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 you go, well, gosh, that's interesting, because Oregon's last in everything it should be first in, and first in everything it should be last in. So how are other states doing really, really well when Oregon's doing really, really bad? That doesn't seem like a national issue, does it? No. It seems like an Oregon issue.
As a matter of fact, I just saw a story the other day where Mississippi went from like number 50 in education to number 4, just through, a lot of different sort of programs. So Oregon, Mississippi's kicking our ass.
And has nothing to do with money. And it literally, in fact, money sometimes is counterintuitive. It has to do with exactly how in Mississippi, there's a lot of issues with school choice that came in and charter schools that came in, and they revamped how they were doing. They focused on education and meritocracy. They got rid of a lot of this, the early stage DEI stuff. I know it very well. I worked with School Choice for Oregon and National School Choice Week. So, one of the things we do is also president of the Parents' Rights in Education, right? So that's why we worked in, like you're talking about, school board elections around the country, and the same issues everywhere. We did a ton in Maine this year during all their craziness. We work with them pretty heavily. Colorado, A lot they're going on there. Of course, Washington, Oregon, Idaho, and we're in 16 states with affiliates and 60 different affiliates right now, and members in every state of the country. And we get the same stories every day. And it is and I can't tell you. I'll bet you. I went through our membership and I did some sampling on Voter Vault, and I'll bet you 30 to 35% of our members are Democrat.
Really?
And
Wow.
This is people are like, you're a hard right-wing conservative, crazy, racist, bigot, homophobe, transphobe. And I go, we literally, like, one of our affiliates, or actually two of them that I know of, are very openly gay affiliates, right? The leaders are. And you're going, but they understand that what they're doing to our kids. I will unite with anybody. If they're pulling the wagon the same way I am, I'm all for it. I don't care if you're a Democrat. I don't care if you're Jewish, Muslim, gay, straight. Don't really care.
Hey, Greg, before we, great discussion today. We always enjoy it. Again, we're really excited about coming down next weekend. Again, with everything going on, especially in Portland and a lot of the progressives really being violent and protesting, do you expect any issues downtown in Portland next weekend?
Well, I'll be blunt. We have a lot of security. This is going to be a record year, and one of the reasons is that as I roll in 1776, and Dave, this is coming, but we have we just announced that we have Maureen Bannon going to be there. She's not the least controversial or the least targeted person on the planet. So we have some very elite security going to be on site the entire time. In all the years we've done Western Liberty Network, last year was the first time we had a single protester of any kind, and it was kind of hilarious. We had Guy Benson there on Friday night, and he was speaking, and we literally he was standing over a lady that was laying on the ground. That was her protest, and just holding signs, and it was a sign about how we were anti-gay. And Guy Benson is going, you realize they paid me to be here and I'm gay, right? It was just ironic. And then they were talking about, another issue, of course, about how we were racist. And up front, we have a black leader of Freedom Works up there talking about, liberty and freedom. And you're going, so literally what you're saying is right in front of you, not true, clearly. And they just got humiliated and ended up leaving. It was 3 of them. Hopefully that's the worst it gets. But, we have Turning Point this year. We have Maureen Bannon. And we're going to have a lot of the governor's candidates there. So I expect some pushback, and we're just fine with that.
Hey, guys, I want to pivot back to the governor's race a little bit. But before we do, again, I'd like to encourage everybody that's listening today to listen to Rob's speech on Spotify and YouTube and everything. Go, Rob.
Oh, well, yeah, where to find us. Again, it's Stand Tall Dave Brown. Again, like I said, we're with Operation 1776 CEO Greg Burnett. Appreciate you being here. But today we're actually doing our live stream, so we're on YouTube Live. We will be the podcast will also be on Spotify as well as Apple Podcasts, which you can get through your CarPlay, which Dave loves that CarPlay. He's jamming. He does his reels of him singing songs, copyright protected songs, which gets us in trouble, but he loves it.
Strikes.
Yeah, we're on 2 strikes now. We're really on that edge, man. But anyway,
I've had one strike.
Yeah, I get it. But Dave loves that. He's a crooner. He loves that singing along.
Crooning, so to speak. Hot tip for both of you
I had
guys.
one strike when I was running a campaign against light rail for Metro, and I had the Metro. I did a cartoon version of Craig Dirksen, who was a Metro at the time, a guy that was actually a fellow Rosarian and everything. And we, for long story, but the campaign I did was Craig Dirksen walking around with a little Metro hat, going door to door like South Park with a little toy train, and he'd go up to the door and go, "Come on!" And the perp would be like, "No, I don't want your train. I don't want your toy train." He'd be like, "Come on!" And then we had the whole Ozzy Osbourne crazy train come on. That got me distracted.
Anyway, but we just invite everyone to join us again. Great things coming up. Excited about jumping into Media Row down at your event this weekend.
WesternLibertyNetwork.org. Get your tickets.
Hot tip on the song, guys. Check out Dean Martin, "Bumming Around." I'm telling you, I happened to click on, never heard it before. And Dean Martin's got like the most buttery smooth voice ever anyway. He's old, I get it. but it's just a fun little song that if you just kind of need to mellow down for a second, if you watch the protests in Minneapolis and you're a little fired up, just play Bumming Around by Dean Martin. I'm going to name off a candidate right now and give us a one or two sentence, feedback from all three of us on these candidates right now. You said there's almost 20. I'm only going to go with, maybe 5 right now. We don't have time to do everybody. And I do appreciate everybody out there that's put their name in the hat. Rob
And again,
knows.
moving forward, we'll be covering all the candidates as they're announced.
What response do you look? You looking for my personal or strategic or what? Because there's different perspectives.
Way on this, I just whatever you want to say. There's nothing off the.
I'll stick with strategic.
Positive,
Well,
right off the bat, let's go Bethel from Salem. What do you guys think?
I think she has a good shot of she has a good case to be made. Put it that way. She's going to definitely be splitting some of the right vote, and people like Christine Drazen are probably the most worried about bringing her stature up. I was strategically, I don't think they would deny that. It's she's going to take more votes from Christine than anybody else.
Okay.
She needs to sell herself to me a little bit. I don't really know much about her. I think I'm kind of in the know, but maybe I'm not a sycophant necessarily. So, hey, tell me about yourself. Tell me why I should vote for you. That's where I stand. I'm from the show me state, Missouri. You got to show me.
I think Bethel is really solid. I like her a lot. I think she's a super quality lady. I could easily be friends with somebody like her. I think she's trusting, and like Rob said, it's hard to get to people, and that's why podcasts, like you were saying earlier, and the more microphones you can get in front of, the better it'll be for her. So let's move on to Christine Drazen.
Christine, I think, is the counterpoint to that. Exactly what you were just saying. I think it's going to be the difference between her and Bethel is that Christine's actually done the work on the good side of the fence, where she's been planning this since the day she lost the last election. Of course, I mean every step she's taken has been very, very organized and thought out. She is unlike Bethel. She's formed packs to build her bench. She's gone out there every single corner of the state and tried to get people on board. Her policies are going to be fine for the general. They might hurt her in the primary. She might, there's going to be, part of this whole game is going to be personality driven as well. So, some of these people are going to be more aggressive than others. In the primary, she's going to have a hard thread.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just worried that will Oregon say, hey, we've been there, done that, time to move on. Need something different.
Yeah, I've been around Christine many times. I like her. A couple of her policies she put through, there's always that politics, running the Yamhill County. We've had a lot of the reps and the senators come into our county and speak to our Yamhill County group. And a lot of times they get caught up in the noise down there on a vote. They're trying to just keep their head above water in a super minority. And they get attacked sometimes by their own Republican Party for having to compromise on one thing to get something else done. And a lot of our Republicans are too dim to figure that out. They want to just hammer. They want to call everybody a rhino when I don't think they really are. I think they just, there's politics to be had. There's politics to be had. And a lot of times they kind of get into a tough spot down there trying to just make something good out of something really bad.
I got one for you. Your friend and our friend, David Medina. You talked about him earlier.
David Medina is a guy I know well. I like him. I like the youthful energy he brings. He's got a ton of social media contact. I've seen him in action. I've worked with him. I'm a coach, and so I'm around young people a lot. I love the youthfulness he could bring. Sometimes, I'm a big term limit guy, so I would like to see all these old people in D.C. go golfing, get the heck out of Dodge, and I think David brings that. He's unapologetic about his faith, and they're going to play the Jan 6 and they're going to play the youthful card on him. He doesn't have the experience. President Trump didn't have any experience as a politician going into 2016, which is not true, by the way, because Trump knew more about politics than any of those people all put together, actually. But go, Greg, your turn.
I agree with everything you just said about David for one thing. And even though the shots of him winning the primary are probably the longest of the list we're going to talk about, there's multiple reasons to be in the primary election battle. And a lot of this is, David's role in some ways is first getting the message out and also pulling the Republican Party back to its roots a little bit. Right. People like him or don't like him. I like his values a lot, obviously. Do I think he's going to win? No. But do I think he makes a good addition? Most of my friends will say he shouldn't have got in the race. I think it's great that he's in the race. And I like him personally. And I think he's got his heart's in the right place. I don't think he's hot air. There's some things I disagree with him on, but I mean, I can't criticize him a single bit. As a human being on a personal level, I like him. I think it's if I was his consultant, I would tell him the exact same thing I'm saying right here.
I'll tell you, for me, what concerns me, again, being in the middle, a little bit more on the moderate side, the way it was kind of presented by the Oregonian and the media, J6, 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 election denier, election denier. I don't know how that's going to play in a liberal state like Oregon, where there's a lot of votes to be had and a lot of people could be swayed. I think that there's still a terrible taste about J6 in a lot of people's mouths. And again, some people will disagree with me and think I'm full of air, but I do think there is some negativity that exists about that. And my concern is that the Oregonian first shot right across the bow was the J6 stuff. They made sure everyone knew.
I don't think you'll win the general, period, right? I'm with you on that. As far as statewide electability is probably not there. That's why I kind of led with the same thing. I think that there's a reason for him to be in the primary, and it's not to win the general.
Yep.
Chris Dudley, if he announces, he said he's going to. That's the rumor. 6'11", former Yale basketball player, played in the NBA for a dozen years. Nice guy, ran a decade ago and lost a close race for governor.
Monday night at a sports bar near you, he'll announce probably, right? So you'll see that. And then, and he's going to be at WLN as well. He'll be one of the people definitely. And I'm trying to figure out a way to get David there as well. I'll say that publicly. Because I actually am advocating for that right now as well. And, final decision on that is laid with other people. But Chris, pros and cons, man, he's gonna hurt Christine for sure. They're gonna be going for the same votes again. But he's gonna be your probably the most electable in the general to some extent. Probably one of the hardest to get through the primary.
I agree. I agree. I've met him. Nice guy. What's interesting in the group we just mentioned, and is apologies to anybody else, it is running. I don't know about you guys yet, but we will. We'll follow up for sure and give you a shout out. I think the primary is exciting because it's like a shortened. Let's take baseball. You like the World Series because it's the best out of 7. Then you got your divisionals, the best out of 5, and then you got your whatever they call it, the wild card. It's the best out of 3. Man, anything can happen in the best out of 3. And that's why I really do think that the primary is open maybe to an underdog a little bit more. In a primary, it's short. You don't have the longevity of having to have that much money. I was asked last year, Greg, in our county, we had 2 people running for people in our county, our PCPs wanting to run for the county commissioner spot. And everybody was coming after me saying, hey, we got to announce who we're supporting. I go, no, we don't. I mean, that's like coming up clear next year. And so I said, it'll shake out. And it did. One person dropped out. We didn't have to decide. But when you're in a county, just so everybody knows, we don't come out and endorse anybody through the primary. You have to wait until the primary is over, because if you're Republican or Democrat, those are your people. And you support them all until they come through the primary. Once they come through the primary, and let's just say after coming after all this, that Chris Dudley wins the primary, and he's our guy. Then he's our guy. And I think the most important thing for me, guys, tell me if I'm wrong, is I have my favorites in this, personal favorites. But my biggest personal favorite is we beat Tina Kotek and win this election. But I think all these are good people, and they'll do a good job. All of them will do a good job for you and me, where we stand, and for the state. So now it comes down to this primary is you know, you got to dig in and find out what David Medina and Chris Dudley and Christine Drazen and Bethel and these different people are all about, and go back to their voting records, go back to what they've lived their life like and done, and what kind of person they are today.
You left a big one.
What's that?
Left that deal out still.
I left that deal out, Ed.
Good deal.
That's because he beat me in golf the last time I played golf.
I think it's a perfect segue for your wild card.
That's true.
I see a very valid path for him to win the primary potentially, and you know he's in that perfect wild card spot of a couple top candidates are going to be splitting some votes that are going to be really, 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 really focused on the general election and scared to say something in the primary that's going to hurt their general chances. That's their Achilles heel. Ed is on the record across the board, public as you can get, as authentic as you can get. I like him personally, and he doesn't have the cuffs on that they do. That their consultants are going to be. If you want to win, if you want to beat Tina, you can't say that, Christine and Chris. Can't say that, Bethel. But Ed will say it. So, with the primary being your more harder fringe Republicans, certainly. You know, the most active Republicans and the farther right you are, the more likely you are voting a primary.
Right.
It's going to be, I think, and then you add into the transportation tax, that's going to be the massive message going through the primary here. You go, the biggest number one issue that's going to be on the November ballot is going to be the fight that that they're trying to win the Senate back and the House back with, and every local race with, is going to be the tax. That's going to be on that ballot, and he can claim that he got it there, right? In many ways, you know, obviously a team with him, but he led that fight. I think it's a good case to be made. I think it's a really tough general election win because of all those exact same reasons.
Greg, do you have that information right there, like on Tina Kotek's tax in front of you that you could rattle off?
I don't.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have it right in
It's
front
a
of me.
lot, though. It's a lot of tax.
Yeah.
One thing you
but
do know.
The gas tax, obviously, the grocery tax, transportation, everything involved with that. But I mean, the one that's really going to apply, you just make it about increased gas taxes, increased grocery prices.
Yeah.
That's really
One thing you do know, I want you to explain to all of our viewers is, again, these are these little things that people like you are an expert on. The rest of us are playing catch up on in this political game. And there's a lot of people out there that turn us off from politics. And I think that's why a lot of people just stay away. You know, they won't get involved because I think a lot of people have a kindergarten education of a lot of stuff, and politics is one. But if you're a person out there that's an independent, and there are a lot of them in our county and across the state, you're an independent. You don't really want to be Joe Biden. You don't really want to be Donald Trump. You just kind of not too happy with either party. Understandable. But you do have some options, but you don't have all the options. You can be independent. But if you're leaning into one of the two parties, hopefully you're leaning into, say, voting in the primary on the side we're talking about, the Republican side. Greg, how can they participate in the primary? Because as an independent, you cannot. But if you become a Republican, you can. Can they do that?
Well, I'll say, since I'm talking to a mostly conservative audience here, I'll say you can register to vote a Republican and vote. I would say you change your registration and do it, even if you want to have a say in, because the other side's not going. In this case, it's going to be one of those clear-cut cases where the Democrats do not have. There's going to be no choice. Clearly, who's going to win the primary there? I don't think there's any significant opponent that's going to file against you in any way. So we're looking at the Republican Party is going to have 20 candidates in there potentially, right? So if you want to have a decision in what candidate that is, and you have your favorite in there, and let's be honest, the Republicans have a very good argument to make this general election win. Very good. So if you're a moderate or an NAV, which is in many counties actually the second largest party, so it's a significant number of people. You can re-register and even register back out, go to NAV afterwards or independent, whatever you want. But if you want a voice in this, it's your time to do it. I can say, if you're a progressive leftist, don't do it. That's all.
They would just go to their county clerk, right, to do that?
Yeah, you can do it online.
Well, you can do it online?
Sure you can.
Okay, you heard that from Greg right there. Another question?
Well, I was just going to say, we're getting kind of close on our hour, and we're kind of wanting to wrap some things up. I'll definitely want to give you a chance, Craig, to run one talk about Operation 1776 and talk about the event this weekend, so we can definitely get that
Sure.
plug out there before we go.
And Op 1776, president of that as well. We were, and the whole point of this is that the whole what we had is we have a bunch of groups: Western Liberty Network, Parents' Rights and Education, Burnett Media Group, 1776, and a bunch of other organizations. But really, kind of a core team. What we had, Dane and I and a few other people got together, Suzanne, everybody else, and got together in last February and said, "Hey guys, everybody's pulling different directions. We're pulling the same direction, but we're all pulling different carts. It's like, why don't we get in the same wagon and go?" We all have different strengths. We all have different things experience. And so we decided to put an organization together. And thankfully, 76 brought me together with them. They're a giant megaphone, man. They have connections all over the country. They are veterans, first responders, and kids. It's about changing the country across the board, teaming up with organizations like Western Liberty Network that trains and mobilizes people. And then me, background where running elections and local elections specifically. How do you win? Very different than state and federal. Parents' rights and education, which is the issue of our days. It is absolutely just driving motivator of anybody right now. And the easiest, lowest hanging fruit to do is, like we talked about, school boards. Try to put all those together and then put a secret sauce together. And how do we win that on scale? How do we change all the counties, all the districts across the country, all at once on a small scale? And Op 76 is kind of making that happen. They're going to be major sponsors of Western Liberty Network this year. They're bringing in Maureen Bannon and a few other surprise guests. They're bringing in some guns and people for that. We're working directly with them to make local loud again, right? Make it, make something, make it, everybody stand up, be strong, be proud. We're only teaming up with ideologically aligned people that are ready to fight with us. That's our mission. And in Op 76 does it in many different ways. One of those key things is going to be what we're talking about with school board elections and everything else, and organizing and mobilizing people. You'll see that this Saturday at westernlibertynetwork.org to get your tickets. You'll see Op 76 there. You'll see Stand Tall with Dave Brown there. You'll see a lot of fun. You'll see a governor's forum there. It's a really good place to meet fellow activists. And if you've ever asked yourself, what can I do? That's the place to find out.
Awesome.
Oh, appreciate that a lot. I think too, coming to that kind of event, you literally would go to a boat show to learn about a motor on your boat. You would go to go to a boat show to get a hot tub. People will go to great lengths to go to some of these shows or training type things. You go to State Fair. I was down there for the ORP. It was really fun. But man, there was people selling beef jerky to fudge. And I learned a lot just walking around the booth, and love looking at the chickens and all the animals and everything like that. But I think something like this is like, if you want to go from having a kindergarten education of politics, if you had the courage enough to come into the Western Liberty event this weekend, you will find that you're going to walk out of there after several hours and go, man, I'm excited because we live in the greatest country in the world that provides this type of opportunity that Rob was saying earlier in the show that doesn't exist for probably 90% of the people in this world. They don't get to go to a Western Liberty event like this. And, not trying to, make you feel too big about yourself, Greg, but since we've met Greg in this last month, it's like, it's been so fun, Greg, because you know a lot. And Rob and I are inquisitive as heck. And so we've learned a lot by having you around us now 4 or 5 times. We are coming to Idaho in late August. We'll be there.
You better be up here, man. The boat's going to be coming out, and we're ready to get Lake Pend Oreille for sure. Man.
We will be there. I promise you.
I'll put the ribs on the barbecue. We'll have some beer on the boat, man, for sure.
We're there.
Catch some trout.
Oh, nice.
Folks, I'm just telling you, when you sit in front of somebody, like I'm considered a pretty good tennis coach, and it's fun to impart knowledge, but man, I love to learn, and I love to. It's one of the funnest things about Stand Tall. We'll continue to have people like Greg who are experts in the political realm, but we will have people on here. We've had people, Democrats. And we'll tee it up and go. Let's do it. Let's have fun. And then we're going to go get lunch afterwards. We're not going to sit here and fight.
I appreciate you did, Rob. I mean, it's everybody, like I said, has their role, but you guys taken a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of strength just to stand up and do what you're doing. I don't think you realize how much impact that has. It is, 100%, man. I'm not just kissing butt here. I mean, I say the same. You'll see me say the same speech at Western Liberty Network It's one of the my biggest issues. I can tell you, Dave, one of the biggest complaints I have with a lot of politicians that run is they forget really quickly that the people that got them there are the people like you that are actually standing up and speaking out and organizing. They don't get there without you. The lifeblood of politics is grassroots aggressiveness. It is absolutely doing something, doing what you do best, and you guys are doing it. So you're right there.
Tell everybody what grassroots really means, just the simple version of that, so they understand.
Yeah. Everyday people, right down sorts. It's like you're saying, like it's not AstroTurf, right? Like you're speaking in football terms, but it is grassroots is your everyday person bottom up. It's the way to mobilize an army from every little individual. It is the way you win a movement. Is not a million zillions of dollars. You win it with thousands of people. And it's one person standing up and getting one person more to stand up and inspiring another person to stand up. And it's the collective force of all of those people that makes a movement. That's it.
Well, I just want to say, you talked about us being a show of the people, and as we close out, I just want to make an admission that we've taken our entire makeup budget and put it into Dave's salary. So that's why we are able to get top level talent like Dave, because we don't do makeup.
You know, Craig costs
Yeah. Well, you can tell I'm fully made up.
Yeah.
I know. I told Riley Gaines once, I said, Riley, I said, you got such an advantage. You know, you're a pretty young gal and you're athletic and you're fun. You got a big smile. And, you know, people like that, I really appreciate where she's come from on all this stuff. She's been a big inspiration to us. But so is Joe Altman, for example. I just want to give a shout out to Joe Altman. Joe is ornery, tough. He's a lot of stuff. He's busy, he's smart. But Joe inspires me because, you know, he's a take no prisoners kind of guy. And you may not like what he has to say, but if you come to the Western Liberty thing, we're pumping it hard. You want to know who Chris Dudley is, or David Medina, or Christine Drazen, or Bethel, or Ed Deal, or the other people that will be there. You can literally sit there and listen to these people talk, and you can network with people and meet a few people. Look for me and Rob. We'll be there. Come say hi to us and sit down for a couple of minutes, be on Stand Tall, and get on camera and be a big shot.
If you can't find us, we'll probably be at the bar. Oh, just kidding.
It's a popular spot. Yeah, so we'll have lots of coffee we're serving for free there as well.
Yeah. Nice. Well, Greg, you're amazing what you're doing too. Thanks.
Great, Dave.
Yeah.
Thanks for all you do.
Yeah, we're going to end the live stream, but we're going to stay on with you for a little bit to go over some things. But we're going to go and click off. So you want to take us out, Dave?
Yeah, Stand Tall with Dave and Rob. We're here today. Paige was here the other day. We did a really fun one with Paige. Judy was on there also. And that's going to be happening more and more. You know, a lot of prayers. There's been a lot of stuff happening this last couple of weeks in our realm of the world. I spoke at a memorial last Saturday to a 32-year-old. And so I just want to shout out to Jessica Williams, or Jackie Williams. She was 32. And she's one of those kind of people in the world that we need more of. We all need to be more like Jackie, because she made everybody comfortable in their own skin. She said hi. She hugged. She smiled, and we all need to do that a lot more. So this is Stand Tall.